In this video, we will take a look into podcast.co. I will let you know what's its functionalities, what's its limitations, and I will also show you the full walkthrough of the tool where you can create your first podcast and how you can do it. Let's get started. Hi, I'm Alston. First, thank you so much for checking out this video. Before we go into this, what is Podcast Go? It's a podcast management and distribution service. You might think why you need podcast, because let me tell you, it's a great marketing and engagement tools with your audience. We all know there's text where you write blog posts, articles, reviews, and etc. to reach your audience. The problem with text, most of the time people don't have time to actually read through all the things said in the text, or it lacks emotions where you can share your feelings or anything in text. So the second option, video is where you can create videos like this and to engage with your audience. But the problem with the audience is the audience need to be consistently focused on the video in order to both see and hear the things we say. But podcast is great because they can listen whenever they want, like they are traveling or they are doing some work and they just want some background information, audio like sort of it. Then podcast is great because we can reach those type of audience to consistently keep engaged with them. So that's why podcast is a great marketing asset for any business, blogger or service. Now let me take a look into what are the functionalities offered by Podcast Go and limitations. And I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm just going to say as I seen according to my research and according to my personal experience, since I have also gotten a personal lifetime deal for this. It is currently available, the lifetime deal. If you want, you can click on the link on the video description to get it. Okay, now let me explain it to you. First, the biggest misconception is this is not a all-in-one podcast solution, because it only manages both managing your podcast and the distribution of your podcast. So it does only these two. It does not help you to create podcast. You need to have an external software or a service to create your podcast and export it into an audio file after clearing the audio, adding background tracks, all those stuff. Then you come and use this tool to both host your podcast and as well as distribution. So there's a separate step which you need to do without this tool. This tool also allows you to create landing page, really professional landing pages. I have seen it and it looks really good for your podcast, where it lists your podcast summary, images, header images, social links, and your episodes. All these things are possible. But please note, they allow it in a sub-page in their domain, branded domain. You can claim the sub-page name the way you want, but you cannot have a custom domain or a CNAME using a white label option. It's not available. They also allow an embeddable audio player which we can use pretty much anywhere, which uses HTML. You can use that to list your podcast, engage with your audience, subscribe, get them into podcast. All these things are possible. They also have 3 different options when it's publishing. One is live, to directly go into publish to your audience. The second one is schedule, where you can do couple of records and you can schedule it different time and it will automatically go according to the schedule. And as well as one private, or you can there's unlisted. What it means is it won't be visible to your regular visitors if it's something secret or bonus content. Then only the people who have the link to that episode will be able to watch, listen to that podcast. And another thing about this too, this is not a live streaming podcast service, guys. It's an on-demand, which means you can stream it to your audience. Once you have done the podcast, you need to upload and then they will be able to listen to the podcast. So it's not live stream, instead it's on demand. They also gives us the option to give episode numbers, and you can mark it as season. You can rearrange the episodes, but they do not give the functionality to create playlist, and as well as do not give functionality to organize your podcast in different folders, episodes in different folders or subfolders. The next thing, they allow you to distribute your podcast using their accounts to all the popular podcast stores, such as Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, TuneIn, Acast, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Break. All these things are possible, but please note, if you're using their distribution, it's just one click. If you're using them, it will be submitted using their accounts in this services. If you want to use your account, you can contact their support and claim it if they use their distribution. Otherwise, you can just manually distribute the podcast. They also help you to get sponsors and sponsorship for your podcast. They have a program for that where they will guide you and advise you on the right track in order to get the sponsorship or advertisements in your podcast. There's a separate page in the website. Please make sure to check it out. I have not personally tried it because I'm just starting out, but there is an option there. There is also a possibility where you can include donation links using Patreon and PayPal links. These donations will be 100% for you. They do not take any cuts or anything from that. Okay, now those are the main things I wanted to let you know about the tool itself. Now some of the main points regarding the lifetime deal. In the lifetime deal, they mention limits on downloads. Most people presume it's not. It means when someone downloads your podcast, but it's not actually true. When they mean download, it means actually listens, which means if a user comes to your podcast and listens to your podcast 10 different times, it will count as 10 downloads. So it's not unique downloads, it's cumulative download. So whenever someone listens, it will count as a download. And also they have option in case you buy a lifetime deal and you want to get more bandwidth or additional features. They offer the bandwidth extra from 1 TB bandwidth up to $15 a month. And they also provide audiogram and transcription service $10 a month. So even if you are unable, if you can stack the code, that's great. If you are not, there is always an option to grow your podcast. Even if you reach these limits in a later date, you can upgrade to this recurring services to get more space out of. And one more thing, currently there's a limitation where if you reach this bandwidth, currently there's no automatic process to get the additional bandwidth you bought automatically applies. Now you need to manually reach out to them and they will apply to you. If it change, I will update the details in the video description. As for my personal advice, this will be great tool for any beginner who are just getting started in podcasting like me. I'm just going to start possibly in this January because I have created my own digital marketing blog called ClickTag, and I'm planning to have a podcast service marketing method also there to reach my audience. So it eliminates some of the biggest technical problems when it comes to podcast, because creating a podcast, it's easy guys. Recording, because I'm easily creating so much video. To me, create a video audio file for podcast, it's really easy. But the main problem comes where I need to host it. I need to create a landing page to automatically help the user to subscribe to my podcast. The landing page, submitting to the stores, those are the hassle. So for me, someone like me, this service is excellent because I don't need to worry about any of those things. I can use a professional service to manage all those needs, and I can actually concentrate on creating great content for my audience. So beginner, it's a really great lifetime deal. If you are an expert and you have a lot of reach and influence, then if you are, just make sure on the limitations where the limits on downloads and as well as some additional features also missing. If you want it, then you can need to get it for additional payment like the transcription service for $10 a month, something like that, just made to be aware. And also the transcription service, it's only available for currently Arabic, English, French, German, Hindi, Italian, Korean, Portuguese and Spanish. So if your language is not something listed here, it's not available. If there are some changes, I'll try to update in the video description. Okay, those are the important things I wanted to let you know about the tool and the deal itself. Now let's go into the walkthrough of the dashboard and show you how to create your first podcast with this service. Let's get started. Okay, now you can see this is the dashboard screen which you will see when you logged in. There are two options. First, regarding the deal, if you have stacked the deal, you can claim the additional deals codes from here. There are two options. First, either you can create a new podcast or you can import my existing podcast using RSS feed. I haven't personally tried out this one. I wanted to be honest. That's why I'm saying I haven't tried it out because I'm just a new guy when it comes to creating a podcast, so I don't have any existing sources. If you are using any, if you are, you can do it from here. Let me now click on create a new podcast so I can show you the process. First, I can give a name for my podcast. I have typed something which I'm going to use for my podcast, and you can also select the category here, marketing, and these categories are predefined. It's pulled, I think, from Apple podcast. I'm not totally sure, but these are the popular categories. You can choose according to the way you want. Let me see. I'll select some more. Okay, let me pick these three. Now you can select the language for your podcast. These settings will be used when you are using the distribution. Where using this, you will be able to narrow down your target audience and reach more effectively. Here you can enter the description for your podcast. There is a character limit of 4,000 words. I'm just copying out and pasting this. And you can also there see formatting options available. Once you are done with this, click on next. Here you can claim URL for your landing page for the podcast. Let me see whether this one is available. Okay, it works. Let me check this one. Okay, now let me click on next. Here we can select the thumbnail image for the podcast. It needs to be in a square shaped image so it can correctly fit onto the canvas. Does not matter the size. The minimum size should be around 200 to 200 pixels, but maximum it can be any. You can also skip it in case you don't want to do it now. I have done it. Let me get my icon. Give me a second. Sorry. Okay, I have selected. You can see it shows the icon. I can scale it up, scale it down, and once I have selected it, and I can click create podcast, and you can see it has created automatically. So now when I click here, it will go to my podcast settings section where I can upload an episode. Let me show you. Click on upload, and let me select an MP3 demo file since I haven't started podcasting. You can see now it is uploading the podcast. Let's wait for it to finish. Okay, you can see it has uploaded. Here we can give the name for our episode. First, let me give episode 1, and we can also give a description for the particular episode. You can hyperlink it, the collaborators, URLs, all these things are possible from here. We can give an author name here, and we can select the type of the episode. There are 3 options currently available. One is full regular episode. There is also an option trailer and as well as bonus. So according to the need you can choose. Here you can select the episode number, give it a season number. All these things are possible. If your podcast contain explicit content, you can select or turn it on here. click on next. Here will give you three different publishing options. One is the public, as I said, it will immediately go to all of your subscribers. There's the option to schedule, and it automatically gives the most popular ones tomorrow or 7 days from now, or you can select a date in the future you want to schedule it. And there's also an option for unlisted. If you want to make this particular episode private, you can do that. Now let me click on public and click publish. You can see it has been published. Now let me go here. You can get the episode share URL. If you want, you can directly share this player. You can embed this player, or you can share this page URL directly to anyone. Then this particular episode will be shared. There are also several options. You can see the analytics for it. All these things are available. You can edit it, and we can make changes and delete it. All those options are available. Analytic will also show all the details regarding total downloads, unique listens to your podcast, most popular episodes, country locations, browsers which are used on your podcast. Something which I like to see but it's not available here is something like how many people skipped over which part of it, and which part got skipped or fast forward. I would love to see those stats, but it's not available here. Click on the settings. Here you can manage the settings for the whole podcast, and you can see if I go over advanced, you can give a subtitle and website URL and copyright. You can edit these messages and author settings, all these extra additional thing. Here delete podcast. The one thing I didn't like, it is really easy to delete a podcast because just clicking on yes, it will go away. So just make sure, like, ideally they should have a password verification, then go to a delete section. Currently it's really easy to delete a podcast. Remember, if you're coming here and deleting, everything will be deleted automatically. So just need to be careful on that. Hope they will rectify that issue. Now let me go into the share and publish section. Here where the main focus is distribution of the podcast. If we want to use their service, it's really easy to use their service, guys. Just click on distribute my podcast and they will automatically do this process. It will contain some sort of validation process where they will check copyright issues, the content, what you're doing, all these things. Once you get approved, it will automatically publish. If you want to do it for yourself, you can click here and you can manually do it yourself. They also give the feed URL for your podcast automatically here. You can use it here. And you can also see they give the option to embed the podcast player anywhere you want. You can do that. In case this script does not work, you can use the iframe instead of that. They also give the option to change the colors and the display options. All these things are available here. You can also control the podcast landing page. Let me show you quickly. This is the landing page which will be created whenever you create a new podcast series. Here you can see it gives the title, header, image. Basically it shows all these things, and it is the only branding which is on the website mostly. You can see otherwise there's no branding. And it also shows the cover image where you can replace this entire header background. You can change it, title, you can customize it, you can include social channel URLs, and you can choose whether you want a light theme or dark it. And it will also give you option to display more information. Do you want to allow short titles, donation links, you can give it over here. And finally, subscribe button. If you want to embed this particular subscribe button into your web pages, you can do it by using here. You can also see select whatever the version you prefer, change the colors. All these things are possible here. Basically that's it, guys. Pretty much it's really easy to get started. You can see I was just explaining and I was able to get started with a new podcast and create an episode. Once you have done the new creation part of the podcast, it's really easy to manage podcast with here, and distribute also. It's really easy. to get started. I have not personally still not tried to distributing through their service, but from the other verified purchases I can see it's really easy. But I will be going forward with this podcast service from January, so hopefully everything will work from then onwards. Okay, anyway, I think it's a really good solution for a beginner to starting out, because you can actually worry about what you want to create instead of other technical stuff like managing landing page for the podcast, hosting services, and distribution. All these things are taken care of. Here it's a professional service. They even help you with sponsorship. They give you guidance through their blog and videos to help you on creating the best podcast. All these things are possible. So I would recommend it to anyone who getting started to have an easy podcast creation, podcast service. If you are if you are really have a big audience, influencer reach and everything, then you can either stack the deal up, or just make sure that the additional charges or the downloads is suitable for you or not. Then make a decision whether it's suited for you or not, or for the or people who have bigger audience and huge influencer reach. Basically that's it, guys. I wanted to show it here. If you want to talk more about these deals, ask questions, discuss anything, you can hop over our Facebook group. We have a dedicated group for lifetime deals and internet marketing in general. And also, once again, thank you so much for checking out this video, and I hope to see you guys in another great video. Bye.